session. So from Azrin to everyone, hi everyone. Hi Azrin, thank you so much for coming in. Let me just do some. Feel free to drop in the chat and say hi to our panelists and moderator just to kickstart our session today. Right. Okay. So I think maybe we can have a start. Let me just go start by welcoming everyone. Thank you so much for spending some time to join us at hashtag Stay at Home HR Summit today. So today I will be accompanied by our moderators and panelists. First and foremost, I would like to introduce our moderator for the day, Mallory Roon from Work Inspires. Hi, Mallory. Thank you
Hi.
for joining us. So Mallory is actually a co-founder and creator of Opportunities of Work Inspires and has been in the talent development space for the past 6 years. And she has been engaging with, developing frameworks and modules to help attract the best talents through onboarding programs, engaging new talents, and a lot more. Right, so I move on to our next panel. Our first panel will be Fauzi Cik Rus. Hi Fauzi, thank you so much for joining this morning. So
My
Fauzi,
pleasure.
right, great to hear from you, great to have you here. So he has a vast experience in the HR industry, been working with a lot of MNCs, GLCs in leadership position for the past 27 years. It's really good to have you here, Fauzi. Thanks again. Next, I would like to introduce you guys to Rachel Tan from Mecca. So Rachel is actually holds a Bachelor of Law degree from University of London. She has been practicing actually in the legal business since 2005. She's very active with NGOs such as Bar Council Malaysia and KLRCA. So Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today. So yeah, without further ado, Mallory, feel free to take the floor and I'll be muting and stopping my video for now, yeah? All right.
Right. Thank you so much, Siti and the Health Matrix team for putting this together. And first and foremost, give yourself a little clap. Yeah, for those of you that can see you, give yourself a little clap for actually coming here on time because it's good to be punctual and it's a very nice, cozy morning. So, but still, thank you so much for being here. So, we want to make sure that this session is fun and engaging, and most importantly, it helps solve any questions or doubts that you have. So, as and when you want, yes, thank you so much, Taha, for clapping in the chat. So as and when you want, please feel free to drop your questions into the chat and then we will get to it as much as possible. All right. And if let's say you'd like to know more about myself and all the panel, you can of course read more about us in our profile and feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn to connect with us further. All right. So we're going to start by asking both our panels, what do you think post MCO will be like? Like everyone talk about this new normal thing, and we all heard about this new normal. So what will new normal be? Mr. Fauzi, let's start with you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I have to get used to talking to my phone rather than talking to people. And this probably will be a new norm. Anyway, what is post-MCO will look like? I feel, honestly, there'll be some chaos. Crisis management will probably be the common words for businesses. I'm no economic expert, but if you listen to the economists throughout the world, their outlook for the economy is rather bleak, at least for 2020. And many countries throughout the world have revised their economic indicators downward for 2020 and even 2021. So if that were, what does it do to companies? Companies has to survive during this bad economy situation. In order for companies to survive, the new norm will be crisis management, will be having to restructure operation in order to stay afloat in their business. and that will be probably what post MCO will be in terms of businesses and economy. And in terms of work culture, there'll be some change. There'll be some good thing that come out of this. One of them, I would say, meeting online. Good companies been doing meeting online for ages, but the traditional companies and most of the companies throughout the world are still reluctant to do that. And I think that's going to be a new norm. That being online going to be making people more productive. There'll be people will be able to work from home like we've been doing the last 40 days during the 41 days during the MCO. So that will be probably a positive change in terms of the working culture. And secondly, on the working culture, and this situation, the market and the employment market will probably toughen up our employees. Employees are so used to be pampered by HR folks, by the management. Expectations very high to management about what for management to motivate them. But I think after MCO, employees have to learn to do self-motivation, self-training, self-development. These are probably some of the changes I see post-MCO.
Thank you so much, Fauzi. That's interesting thought for the economy and also work culture point of view. Rachel, what about you? What do you think, what's the new normal going to be like?
I think the digital footprint will be even more moving forward. We're going to rely a lot of technology. Company moving forward, those who are service facing, you realize that you don't need an office to work in. Everybody. So some of the cost-cutting measures some companies are taking right now are actually giving up premises already. They realize that even with the current situation, they can minimize costs by giving up their current rental, current office, and employees still have productivity, especially if you are servicing or doing work from usually clients or even using computers. So basically, you don't need a premise. So things like we will start realizing that we can do a lot without, right? Suddenly with MCO, we realized that now on spending, we have actually the talent. We won't realize that until we actually sit at home and realize we can do so much more. So the new normal, basically understanding what works for individual company. Some may strive, some may fail. Traditional company digitalization, right? Using technology to the new world, the new normal. But until further said and done, I think the economy, yes, but the economy will rise, it will get up. The only difference is that what economy will sustain. So it is actually, for me, MCO and this COVID-19 pandemic gives everybody a new slate. Now everybody has an equal chance to make it in this new normal. You and I can all now be
Rachel, can you repeat the last sentence again? We can't hear you. Your mic is a bit off at the last sentence. Can you repeat the last sentence again? Yeah.
Am I lagging?
You're good now. It's just the last sentence.
Can't hear, there's echo. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah. Just go ahead. Just go ahead with the last sentence.
I'm saying that we are now at a place where we have equal opportunities to be pioneering new economy. That's all I'm saying. So better for worse, we are going through something that either you and I have no prediction. I cannot say that it's going to be better in 2 months' time or 3 months' time. But wherever we are right now, we should make the best out of it. I think for a business perspective, everybody should be savvy enough to think about one step ahead. If you're not thinking, then we're going to have a problem then.
I like that honesty. All right, so just to give everyone a bit of a recap, so Fauzi talked a bit about crisis management. It's going to be a new thing for corporates, and also in terms of the work culture part, it's important that there are some things that will change, like online meeting, productivity from working from home. And I saw that Terry mentioned that he won't feel safe going to office unless everyone's tested, and it's true, Fatih. There will be some sort of anxiety going on, so it's important that companies address this as part of their work culture. And on the other hand, employees are much more tougher in these days because you learn to be self-motivated, you learn to self-manage yourself at home, and you learn to self-handle your things. So self-development, self-motivation is going to be a big thing as well. And of course, Rachel talked a lot about digitally savvy and making sure that everyone is thinking one step ahead. And I think the key takeaway for me personally is that equal opportunity equals to everyone has an equal opportunity today to pioneer a new economy. So someone said this to me, that we are going global and the global is coming to us. So we all need to take one step ahead to ensure that we are ready. So with that being said, I'd like to ask Fauzi this question. Your profile is extremely interesting. You have had working experiences across 27 years in multiple companies, and you've helped a lot of companies through tough times in turnarounds. So if you were, like, frankly sharing, you want to make sure that this is a conversation that everyone can take something important home. What do you think are 3 things company needs to consider when preparing for their business continuity plan, or BCP as we know it? Like, what are 3 things they need to have or need to consider?
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, 27 years of experience, that make me very old. I even have an MCO beard. So my wife doesn't like it, but most people like it. So I'm keeping the beard after MCO. So what are the 3 things? Okay, for me, for a company who already have a BCP in their pipeline, they are one step ahead of other companies. Unfortunately, many companies do not have this. I was reading the other day from, according to the Department of Labor in US, after such catastrophic incident like we are facing right now, normally about 40% of companies, particularly the SMEs, will not be reopened. And out of that 40, those that open, 25% will probably will be closed down after 2 years. That's how scary it is. But for companies who have proper BCP in their pipeline, they are one step ahead. What are the things they need to do? First thing they need to do, business impact analysis. Company needs to know what are the critical business functions required in order for the business to continue to have a business recovery. The objective of the BIA, or business impact analysis, basically is for company and management to understand, to identify, in order to have the business recovery, what kind of people do you need? You need to identify the people, you need to identify the facilities, and you need to identify the asset required for business recovery. So the emphasis will be put on which employee will be needed during this business recovery, because not function will be required during business recovery. So there is always a strong chance that business require to do downsizing, as much as we don't like it, so as much as it's painful. Part of the BCP could involve that. However, an effective BCP must have people that come first. People must understand the BCP of the organization. There must be a proper communication and rigorous communication to employees to understand where the company is heading. What is their BCP? How are they involved? Those are critical. Basically, that's what I feel are important facets of having BCP during these crisis situations.
Thank you so much, Fauzi. I think that's a very important point, especially it's scary but true in the especially with the percentage of SMEs that will be affected. And also the three important things to consider: people, facilities, and asset. Like end of the day, we cannot avoid the fact that downsizing might happen. So how can we prevent that from happening in some way, or how do we get people on board ready to ensure that you can move through this quickly? So with that coming into space, I would like to go to Rachel on the legal perspective of this. I mean, for the past how many weeks, government has been releasing a lot of policies talking about how to retain your people, how to sustain the company's development while also being able to take care of the organization. So from a legal perspective, what do you think companies can do to retain their people without having a hard hit on their business?
Legal perspective.
Yeah.
I always think that when it comes to maintaining or keeping people, right, it's people's perspective, not legal perspective. But in terms of managing employees, I say we are in a time where we not only have to look at rationality, whether it works for the company. Let's say, for example, you're a manufacturing and now there is no demand, or you are doing delivery service and there's no demand for delivery. Perhaps you do a B2B sort of delivery, logistic company, for example. So you have to think what's best for your company and take that route. Of course, they always say retrenchment should be the last consideration. So you can consider pay cuts, unpaid leave in a time being, because by doing so, you probably can sustain the employee longer in the job itself. Unpaid leave, although they are on unpaid leave, they're still technically your employees and they're still entitled to benefits like company benefits, medical, hospitalization. So in the event, worst case scenario, they still have something to fall back on, like company insurance and benefits. Alternatively, worst case scenario is retrenchment. But even retrenchment has its own side effects to things. What if the economy recovers? What if you need more people suddenly? So it is also something that company have to consider at case by case basis, I would say. And while you're applying rationality, I should also advise you all to apply empathy. We are in a place where we don't know what the future is going to be like. So while you're applying things to do to your employees, apply empathy in the entire process. It is very important because every employee is different sort of struggles and difficulties, and you must know what sort of demographic of your employees. Are they more of the B40 employees? Are they middle class employees? How are they going through this point of time, right, with their financial difficulties? Things like that.
I think it's very important. And I really like how you talk about the empathy, and I like what Fauzi mentioned. At the end of the day, people is still the core. Without people, your BCP can't run properly. And of course, if you don't take people into consideration and put some empathy into it, don't just do things on a rational manner. So in terms of questions, we have a question from Elizabeth, which I think relates back to what you mentioned, Fauzi, in terms of like downsizing, and also what you mentioned, Rachel, about putting people first. How does HR communicate the people first policy versus downsizing is the question. I repeat, how does HR communicate the people first policy versus the downsizing?
Really good questions. HR communicate people first policy should be part of the culture of the organizations already. If it's not, well, you have to start somewhere. So it's about one of the best way to communicate that people are the best come first is people must know retrenchment, downsizing is the last resort. Therefore, there must be a lot of prerequisite to downsizing. If you just retrench people know people is not the first, but people are the last. So what does organizations in trouble need to do first is they must be doing a lot of other activities to reduce, to save the organization. For example, cost-cutting measure have to immediately be implemented. Number two, there is a possibility of compensation reductions. throughout the organizations. Everybody get affected, but everybody together during good time, everybody still together during bad time. So many of these initiatives must be seen to be done before any downsizing to be done. And all these initiatives need to be, again, these keywords, need to be communicated to employees constantly, so the employees know what is the situations of the business. Employee knows the numbers of the business. Employees know what needs to be done to save the organizations, and employees know what they can do to be part of the savior of the organization. Let me share with you briefly when I was the HR director for Asia in Western Digital, early 2000. I was crazy. I joined that company when they were losing, they almost bankrupt. The share was like $3. They almost filed Chapter 11 US. So I was crazy enough to join. So we joined, we turned around the business. You know, one of the key things in turning around the business was people. So HR played a critical role in turning around the business. You guys mostly are HR folks, right? So HR play a key role in that. One of the key things that I can talk a day about that, but briefly, the key one is communication. People knew exactly what needs to be done. And you know how we communicate? There are many communication channels. One of the communication channels that I always remember that I'm very involved is the quarterly town hall, which many people have. We have about 7,000 people at that time. So in 7,000 people, my CEO will talk to the executive, the senior, the managers, and all. It's about 500 or 400 of them. I have to speak to about 6,000 people. So I have to convey all the fun that I mentioned earlier to 6,000 people. So I have 3 sessions, 2,000 each. In the big, we have a big cafeteria in Western Digital one. So I have 4 barcode, screen. We have to walk all over so that people don't get bored, so that they understood what I'm talking about. So I have to basically sell the ideas of turning around to these people directly. And of course, that is quarterly. But on a regular basis, we have main briefing so that people always are in tap about what's going on. Like right now, the MCO, everybody says the DG of Ministry of Health, the hero. Because what did he do? He didn't do much, but he communicates. He communicates well with the people. That's a good example. So I think we want to make people as first start off with communication and transparencies.
And I think just to add on to that question, in terms of communication and transparency, right? If let's say really worst case scenario, really have to go Chapter 11 or really have to reach to the point of retrenchment and also dismissal. Worst case, okay, I'm just being pessimistic here, okay? Worst case scenario. How do you think a company should communicate or be transparent when you come to addressing the people? Because people will panic, rumors will spread, and next thing you know, before management say anything, WhatsApp will circulate first. So what can companies do to prevent that? How can they prevent such panic?
Again, like any other, there are many fake news around. To fight fake news is being transparent from the authority. So the same thing with companies. If you think that the operation restructuring require downsizing, what we in Malaysia call retrenchment, then we need to communicate to people that is in the offing. Be ready so that the people are mentally ready, psychologically ready. The worst retrenchment exercise done is when people are locked out, they are not mentally ready, they are caught by surprise. Nobody likes to be caught by surprise. So that is very key. I guess next, I will talk a bit about what you need to do in terms of people aspect if you happen to have to do retrenchment.
Okay.
Or should I continue now? I don't know.
You can just continue now. Then I will go to Rachel,
Sure.
because that's another key part I need Rachel to address.
Okay. The last resort, as I mentioned earlier, to save an organization, it could be retrenchment. So we cannot tell employees good news when the fact is there's a lot of bad news coming their way. So we have to be transparent. Now, after we have done the cost cutting, we have done compensation reduction, we have done many other initiatives, but the company still cannot survive. The next step is sometimes to save a body, you have to cut a limb. So you have to, let's say you have 1,000 employees. If the company closes, 1,000 people lose their job. But if you can save the company by downsizing, retrenching 200 people, you save 800 livelihood. But you have to, you know, the 200 people that when you retrench, they are human beings. So it's involved emotion. So you have to be empathy about it. So how to do it, that is very important. Now, a lot of time in Malaysia, we do VSS, voluntary retrenchment scheme. But with the current state of the market, people will not want to volunteer to be retrenched. Therefore, you may have no choice but to do forced retrenchment. What I used to do in 1998 when I was at Carrier International, an econ company, where 1998 economic recession, I have to let go 400 people, forced retrenchment. You guys have to be ready for that. So, but how to do it? There are three things that I want you to know you must do if you have no choice but to do this. Number one, you must retrench with dignity and empathy. No lockout, meaning people must be communicated earlier about the retrenchment. They must, people who are involved to be retrenched, they must understand why they are selected. The selection have to be fair, which I'm sure Rachel will talk about that later. Okay, but so the selection has to be fair. When people know that they're selected fairly, not because their boss hates them, people tend to accept a little bit more than thinking they have been victimized. That's number one. No lockout. Don't they come in the morning to work, gate closed. Sorry, you are retrenched. You know what do they do next? The next step they do, they go see lawyer. They go find legal. They go to labor office. Liability to the company will increase. That's number one. No lockdown. Allow them to clear their belongings when they're retrenched. Either in the evening when most employees already leave the company, or during weekend with the supervision from the supervisor. So they fear that, hey, you know, I'm not like being kicked out from the company that I've been contributing all this while. And third one, what I've done in 1998, which not many people have done, but I think helped me a lot, was we gave employee to be retrenched an option. We gave them an option whether they can be paid in lieu and they're gone, or they can serve the notice. Believe me, 98% will want to be paid in lieu. They want to be gone. But the fact that we gave them choices, they felt that they are not being kicked out. So number one. Number two, by them indicating their choice in that letter of retrenchment, they have to return the letter. So it's like they're indirectly accepting the retrenchment. So that's what we did. Not many people done that, and I did that. And out of 400 people we retrenched, only 4 people complained. And we went to court. And the company at the time, I wasn't working for the company anymore, but I was the key witness. I went to court and we won the case.
Oh, wow.
And so most importantly, our conscience has to be clear as HR. Our conscience has to be clear that we're doing the right thing for the company without victimizing any individual. That's the other thing. The other thing is, when you do this, though it's sad and uncertainty, people will not be too overly bitter. Therefore, going to lawyer, going to labor office is not the first thing in their mind. So retrenchment involves people's and emotion. Therefore, if you to do it, you have to do it with empathy toward those people who lost their job. Now, next, what are the things you need to do for people during this, if you have to force retrench? Number one, there are three things I want to share with you briefly. One, you have to support those retrenched. Number two, you have to manage the morale, or actually three, I will talk about the dignity. The number two is you have to support those people retrenched. Number three, you have to manage the morale and motivations of the retrenchment survivor, those people who remains in the company. That's will determine how productive they are. So on number two, support for those retrenched. What are the things you need to do? Number one, you must help them with the outplacement. Company must have an outplacement program. Successful or not, that's another story, but that must be done so that you know what are your people skills, what are the industry requirements, try to match them. That's number one. Number two, they should be trained. There should be training for those people retrenched on how to apply for a new job. Many of them have never applied job for a long time. They love the company they're working for. They don't know how to do the CV. They don't know how to attend an interview. So they have to be trained how to do the CV, how to attend an interview, how to go into the digital looking for job in the social media and so on. They have to be trained. For those employees who want to start a business with the money they got, they have to be trained how to start a business. Not everybody, starting a business is not easy. So that's number two. Number three, there should be some sort of motivational program for these employees, retrenched employees, so that they're ready to prepare themselves for the new life outside of the company. So these are the things they need to do. And the other thing, that the third one, our placement training, third one is help them feel the employment insurance scheme that SOCSO provides. Don't forget that. You help them, they feel, now let me tell you why you have to do all these things. They're gone, they're no more your employees. Why you have to do this thing? There are three things. Number one, it helps them. You help these unfortunate people. By helping these unfortunate people, you, HR folks and the management, it will hopefully clear your unconscious guilt for making people to lose their job.
True.
So believing your guilt is not easy, you know. But I've retrenched 3 companies and it's not easy. But you need to manage your guilt. So by helping these people, you know you're doing the right thing. Okay, that's number one reason. Number two reason is when these employees feel that, oh, their former employers still care for them, still taking care of them. That resulting, that feeling of them, I don't think I want to sue this company. They have no choice. They're helping me still. So meeting a lawyer, going to labor office, is not the first thing in their mind. Therefore, it reduces the liability of the company in the longer run. Number 3, this is important. It helps the survivor of the retrenchment, people who remains in the organization, who may think one day it will happen to them, they're observing. If you're doing it right, with humane, with those people retrenched, they see, wow, this company is cool, this is great. They have this fuzzy feeling about the organization, warm and fuzzy feeling. Okay, with that, they will be more aligned with the organization, new directions. Therefore, hopefully the organization will survive better. Well, briefly,
I really like that. Yeah, I really, really like that. And I think there's a lot of key nuggets. You cover a lot of questions from the audiences with that very interesting sharing and very insightful sharing as well. So if I were to just share like really quickly a recap is that I think the key word is always retrench with dignity and empathy, because don't forget people are human. And I think from the chat, I can see everyone's a bit concerned or very concerned for that matter about like, can their pay be sufficient for the survival? Do they have enough savings? And I think you addressed that very well in terms of the support system and helping them to come out, and how can you give them job placement or training to be ready. And that in long run will continue carrying the company's image, as well as giving the survivors the morale and support they needed. So I would like to ask this to Rachel, okay? We talk a lot about retrenchment and a lot about what should company do in terms of the people and the moral and the empathy side. I would like to talk really about the principles of retrenchment, like what constitute retrenchment. And I think this is important for every employee even to know, because you do not want it to happen to you, and if it does, you know what to expect and what to prepare for it. So Rachel, I'll leave that to your expertise.
Thanks, Mallory. Guys, before you consider to do a retrenchment, you have to first understand that there must be redundancy. The principle of retrenchment under the law, there must be redundancy. So what is redundancy? Redundancy is when there's an excess of manpower, right, in the organization due to either business downturn, business loss, automation, outsourcing. You can even make money and still have redundancy. Because when you restructure your business, there's a possibility some of the manpower might become excess. So now retrenchment is the exercise to remove those redundancy. That is the principle of retrenchment. There must be a redundancy. So when you go to court, you must be able to prove, the court here is industrial court, the company must be able to prove that there is a form of redundancy due to business restructuring, business loss, automation, and what's not. So when you are getting them to sign a letter of retrenchment or accepting a retrenchment, that doesn't stop them from going to the Labor Department or IR Department to file a case. Because under Section 20 of the Industrial Relations Act, when the company retrench, is as good as termination. And when a company terminates an employee has the right to file for unlawful dismissal, right? Unlike in the situation where they resign and go off on constructive dismissal. Now that one, they have to be the one who bears the burden to prove in court, because then they are the one who resigned first. But in terms of retrenchment or when you terminate an employee due to misconduct, poor performance, the burden of proof when you go to court is with the company. That's why the company is called to court to explain, like what Fauzi did. He has to explain what was his reason for retrenchment and what was the idea behind the retrenchment. And of course, when it comes to the retrenchment, it's a pure prerogative of the company. The court will not say that it's, oh, you have wrongly dismissed a person. The only time when you wrongly dismiss a person for retrenchment is when they look into your documentation and you fail to prove the reasoning, whether there was an actual redundancy, there was a genuine restructuring, or whether you actually practice last in, first out. So these are the few things that the court will also look at, right? Some companies might not rely on last in, first out as a code to retrench, because they might want to specifically pick a certain group of people. Sometimes they look at performance. Now, even that also, I would advise that my clients especially, please prepare in advance, like a performance matrix or a documentation to show that the reason why you pick a certain group of people for retrenchment is due to their performance. And all this must be backed up, black and white, document it, keep it, because you're going to get a letter from the IR department in 60 days. They have 60 days to file. So after 60 days plus another 30 days, you'll get the paper if they choose to file. So don't throw away the papers.
Okay.
Right.
There's one question for you from Elizabeth. She said, what about cases where HR asks the employee to resign and pays them compensation? Is that a legal practice?
That is akin to an MSS. So if you're going to get someone to resign or agree to resign, you see, whether you sign an agreement, whether it's an MSS or a VSS, is something parties have come together to agree upon, right? And if the employee has taken the money, now if he goes to court, he have to explain to court and say, why do you take the money in the first place, right? You have to explain, why do you take the money in the first place? There must be a meeting of the mind, or in the legal jargon, it's a consensus ad idem. You must have agreed for a certain consideration. I can tell you, look, if you resign, I give you this money, but you took the money. So that means you agreed to the resignation. The term was to resign if you take the money, and you have taken the money. So now that you go to court and say, actually, I don't want the money, then why do you take in the first place? That question will come back to you and bite you, because the court is not done, you see. Why do you take the money? On the go, right?
Yeah.
Because no one can fall out of your position or your company, right? If you think that they have done things that is unscrupulous to force you out, then you can resign and file for constructive dismissal. But if you are the one who go ahead and say, "Nama, I take first, and then I see what happens later," that question will come back to you in court and ask you, why do you take the money?
Okay, so I think we talk a lot about what happens in worst case scenario, and I think that's something, as much as it's difficult to hear, is something that we all need to know, because worst case, if it really does happen, at least we are prepared. So right now, I want to take us a bit on a different perspective. What's the things you can do to get ready for after MCO, and there are some questions about, are companies actually ready for it in terms of their technology, in terms of the economy? What can they do if there's a next recession, especially after this? What we honestly, we do not know. And I think nobody can give you a fixed answer today in terms of whether are we going into recession again, or how bad will the economy be hit after this, or will things recover, or how long will it recover. But what we can talk about is what can you do to be ready, both as a company and an employee perspective. Okay, so let's start with just a company. So Fauzi, what is one or two key important things that companies can do today in order to be ready for what's next?
First of all, they need to work on their PCP if they don't have one. Number one. Number two, they have to be ready mentally and technically to implement many unpopular decisions, like I said, including possible retrenchment due to redundancy. They have to prepare how to do it. Number three, they need to start communicating to employees, as I mentioned earlier. Communication is key during crisis. Good example is the DG of Health that we have. He becomes a hero now for Malaysia. He communicates. And whatever the cost saving or initiative that can be done to save the company, start doing now. There's no delaying in doing that. And lastly, get proper advice. If you're not sure how to do it, get proper advice, not only on legalities, but also on the change management required in these situations. And I just want to add on the legalities. Rachel talked about the LIFO. Some people based on performance choose people to be redundant based on performance. That's very good. This is the opportunity to get rid of the dead wood. But if your documentation, that can be done if your documentation of performance is strong and solid. But what I've done in one of my companies before also was how to do the LIFO. Instead of overall LIFO, what we did was we split it by department. So within the department, let's say we don't need club, there are 3 clubs. Then we use the LIFO for the club of the 3 clubs, the one last in out, rather than club the entire organization. Because there are many good ones, there are ways to lose some people. So there are many ways to skin the cat legally. So those are some of the things that I've done. So keep that in mind. All right, that's it.
Sure. Thank you so much. So 3 key things. Number one, again, I emphasize this: if you do not have a BCP, please prepare one. If you feel that your boss's BCP is not clear, ask them. Because the more you question, the more they think about it. So BCP is extremely important. Communicate, and of course prepare for what's the worst case scenario. Now, Rachel, I'd like to ask you a different perspective of this, and this is brought up by Carrie as well. How do we motivate our colleagues who are working from home? And of course, we all know after MCO, due to split operations and safety reasons, there might be a percentage of people who will continue working from home and some will be going to office. But he personally, and I'm pretty sure some of us have also seen where some of our colleagues are not as productive as we hope that they will be. We can't blame them, but we can't tell them off. So how do we motivate them to be a bit more productive?
Good TikTok videos. What my boss and I did last 2 weeks ago, we all woke up, we were testing out the new software, and we all got up and decided to do a TikTok video using Zoom.
Okay.
Who were up, just to keep it going. I think the idea of the entire process is to have continuous engagement. It's not easy. We take things for granted because we see our colleague every day. Last time, oh, every day see each other, so we think that everybody is okay, but not everybody is doing okay. Some people actually have existential crisis, like they go through pandemic like day or day. As long as I'm alive and breathing, I'm okay, but they're not capable of functioning, and it is a mental state. It's not easy. Especially those who are probably living alone and have not been talking to people for 60 odd days like me. It's was difficult initially, but because my team and I are constantly online every day, I see my bosses more often now than I ever did. I see them like 2 hours a day. I'm like, boss, this is a bit too much. I only see you once a month. But I believe that the engagement was equally as important because they kept me going on, reminding me that I have a duty to still participate in like an organization that I'm still with. Once you're too disengaged from the world, you felt you will submerge yourself into a world of your own, and you felt like you're really disoriented or you're dissociated with everybody. So it's good to constantly keep your employees motivated by engaging with them, either one-on-one, give them a call. My boss calls me every now and then and say, hey, how are you? He will never say, Rachel, get things done. The first thing he will check in is like, what's my temperature? What's how I feel? They even started to add me on Facebook, which is a bit weird, but never mind, let's not go there. So they just know what everybody is doing and also try to gauge the atmosphere around the person, like that, the feelings. So it's good to check in and check temperature with your employees every now and then, your colleagues as well. Try to still continue things like birthday blowouts, like, get them a cake. I mean, they're deliveries, right? You still do it monthly basis. Why can't you still do it now, right? The only difference is you can't be there for them, but you can send them a cake, do a Zoom birthday song, group singing. I don't know, things to continue doing. Small things like that does matter to a lot of people.
I think that's a very good point. And to add on to what Rachel said, because we have also worked with some clients on the engagement side. So what I can tell you is that a lot of companies have actually changed their productivity measurement. Last time you can see that the person is in the office, they're not on Facebook, likelihood they're working. And if they work overtime, okay, maybe either they're taking too slow or they're actually working more. But these days you can't do that. You can't exactly check and agree like what's everyone doing all the time. So there are companies to change their productivity measurement to see based on results rather than time clocked in. So instead of working 8 hours, you can work 4 hours and still get the job done effectively rather than working 8 hours long. And the second thing I would like to talk about quickly is just about managing expectations. Because like we did one session where there's a mother in the team and she has a 5-month-old baby, and apparently because you don't see your bosses a lot previously, like what Rachel said, for her case, her boss didn't even know that she had a 5-month-old baby, and her husband is actually one of the frontliners, so he doesn't come home until 2-3 days in a row. So only after we did the session, the boss will ask her, why are you so slacking at work? Only to realize that she has a 5-month-old baby at home and she has to manage 2 other kids as well. So at that case, the boss actually took the time to change the job structure a little bit for them to make sure that those with kids can work better at certain hours. And when your kids are sleeping, only you work kind of thing. And those without kids work on the other half of the hour. So that everyone's productive at different time. Because I don't think end of the day, if they are slacking, it really could be a mental thing, or it could be just environment issues that you can talk to them about. I hope that answers your question, Terry. And Su Ling says that yes, she sends cake to her teammate. I've not received one, so if anyone wants to send to me, I'll be happy to get one as well. It's not my birthday, but I just love cake. So if anyone has any other questions, if not, we will proceed to one of the final questions because we got the last 10 minutes. So if anyone has any other question, please feel free to type it. If not, I will just go ahead to the last one. I'll give you about 10 seconds. If anyone have any, can either type it in now or I'll just go straight ahead. Okay, cool. So if there's no other, okay, there's one from Fatin that says, should companies sponsor certain equipment for employees to work at home effectively? Rachel agrees. Okay, like noise cancelling headset and things like that. Okay, Rachel agrees. Fauzi, yes or no?
For me, that's what make the difference between very good employer mediocre employer.
So it's a yes. If you can, sure, sponsor. Try to make work easier. Now, the last question I would like to ask is from an employee's perspective or entrepreneurs, if there are any entrepreneurs here. What can us as individual do today to help us prepare for what's possible happen next? Whether is it good news or bad news, or whether the MCO is extended or I'm permanently working from home, whatever it is, the uncertainty, what can we as individual do today to help that? So, Rachel, would you like to start with that?
I think what Fauzi have put on so far, all the ideas has been a lot of help, a lot of insights. I think what we are mentioned today just now was also a great insight. All I can say is, as we go on, we need to be a little bit more, add a lot of more finesse to our work when it comes to human relations, employee relations. Don't forget that even as much as we are employers, right, that we are capable of doing a lot of things, we should know that we are in this together. Both employees and employers are in this together. And the only way to get them to understand is making sure your engagement level with them is high, commit to transparency of information, understanding that they are part of the organization as much as you are, in order for us to get through this. That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you. Fauzi, what about you from an employee's perspective or individual perspective?
For an employee perspective or individual small business perspective, uh, we have to embrace for the rough ride. For small businesses in particular, I have many small business friends who are really in trouble right now. Basically, what they're doing is, number one, re-engineer themselves, re-educate themselves, rebranding themselves, retooling themselves. Many people, a good example are people who are selling foods. Now, if you're not online, you're gone. So it's about retooling yourself. And for employees in general, also, we have to be confident with ourselves. No matter how bad things are, things will turn out to be better eventually. Believe in ourselves, believe in God, pray more.
I really like that. And okay, just to end the session for everyone, one final note is that I always believe in these three important words called just one more, or JOM for short, just one more. So I always believe that in everything that we do, as long as you focus on doing one thing a bit more every single day, eventually you'll get that. So if you're someone who probably have not gone for training or learning or upskilling for the past 5 years, maybe it's time to just take on any of the online courses to just get yourself digitally ready. So because end of the day it's about being relevant for what's next, as what all the panel has mentioned, how they will select. Yes, Fauzi, you have something to share.
I just want to add this. I personally, I've gone through ups and downs. Whenever I'm down personally, in the career, life, whatever, I flood myself with positivity. I go to the gym, I listen for 2 hours in the gym to Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, all these people, listen to them. It will motivate you, it gives you positivity. Don't add negativity. Flood yourself with positivity through audio, video, or whatever. It helps you.
Yes. So every day, just do one thing more extra. Like it could be watch one positive video, learn one extra new thing, check on one colleague. Every day, if you just do one more, eventually you will be more than ready for what's next. Okay. So with that, we'd like to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to the panel as well for sharing very, very important insights. I really hope all of you got some very important things. So one tiny thing before all of you leave is very important to share this with at least one colleague of yours. What are 3 important things you've learned, and share it with at least one colleague of yours, so that this is important knowledge for everyone, and at least we can all move forward together. So with that, I pass it back to Siti to end the session. Siti, floor's yours.
Right. Okay. Right. Hello again, everyone. First and foremost, thank you so much to you, Mallory. Thank you so much, Fauzi and Rachel. It is very, very, I would say, insightful session. Personally, I learned a lot. And I think even though we are actually in the midst of entering uncertainty and even a possible recession, I believe there's a lot of optimism that's been discussed in today's session, which I truly believe that everyone's attending right now has benefit from it as well. Another round of thank you for Mallory, Richard, and Fauzi for a very great session, I believe. And thank you everyone for your engagement, for your questions, for your opinions and thoughts. It is very, very, I would say, engaging, and it's very positive to receive these kind of feedbacks for us to share with all, I would say, our viewers. And no worries, we'll be sharing the recording very, very soon. We share with you guys the link. Other than that, I would say stay safe, take care, and we'll definitely going to be seeing you guys most probably next week, since our MCO already extended with a new topic. Another round of applause and thanks for everyone for attending. I hope you guys will be sharing it with your colleague, as what Mallory has said earlier. Stay tuned. We'll be sending an email and information very, very soon. Thank you again, everyone, and see you guys very soon. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, Silly.
Bye, Mary.
Bye. Thanks,
Rachel. Bye,
Fauzi.
Siri. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.